ahead and get started with everything. So we are actually up in Wisconsin right now. So we are visiting my family and it's freezing here. So we're sitting behind a nice fireplace trying to keep warm.
If this were Florida, that would be fake. It would be up there. But
so we're really excited to do this workshop. Honestly, we have so many people who come in the office with really undiagnosed hormone issues and specifically thyroid. So this is a really important one, that there is so much misinformation out there. And honestly, the way that people are being treated for thyroid issues is completely backwards. And so I'm so glad that all of you guys are here to be able to understand really what thyroid issues are and really the multi-system component of everything. And we want to empower you to be able to take control in understanding when you're having a conversation with your doctor, what questions to ask, and not to accept a lazy approach to doctoring. And I say a lazy approach to doctoring because that's the reality of what's happening right now, is nothing's done to find out the cause as to why things are happening. So when we look at women right now, we have so many that are coming in feeling just chronically fatigued. They're having issues where they're exhausted at night, but they can't fall asleep. Their brain is just going. They're having so many other multi-system issues that their body is hurting, that they're chronically, their joints are hurting, their muscles are sore all the time. They just can't handle stress. They just feel like it's constantly building and building and building. And then there's other symptoms associated with that. There's going to be hair loss, there's going to be dry skin, there's going to be constipation issues. All of these things are warning signs of underlying thyroid dysfunction, and not just thyroid dysfunction, but overall hormonal dysfunction. Honestly, we look at thyroid issues as things that mostly just affect women, but there are tons of men that we see coming in the office that have major thyroid imbalances and have not been addressed or have really been brushed aside. So this is something that we're really excited to be able to go over with everybody. Before we get into everything, I want you guys, you have a little bit of project that you need to do at home. We're going to be referencing this later, so I want you to grab a tape measure. So we're going to give you guys plenty of time to do this, but grab a tape measure at home, and I want you to measure your waist to hip ratio. We're going to be referencing why this is so important. This is going to tell you if you have underlying insulin or cortisol issues. Okay, so this is a simple test that you can do at home right now and see if you may not have symptoms associated with a hormonal issue yet, but this is going to tell us which direction you're going for it. Because when we look at with health, you're either building health or you're building disease. So get a tape measure and you're going to measure your waist.
About an inch above your belly button?
Yeah, about an inch above your belly button. Typically the smallest part of your waist is what you're going to measure. Then you're going to measure your hips, and this is going to be at the widest part. So it's going to be your true hips, like right where your leg, the hip socket actually is. That's typically like the widest part of your hips or your butt, and you want to do a measurement there. And then you're going to divide the the waist measurement by the hip measurement.
You weren't supposed to tell them that yet. You're supposed to tease it.
Okay, but we're going to tell you what the number means. So your homework right now as we're going through this is to find out what your waist to hip measurement is, and then we're going to be referencing what it should be and what that really means.
And it's different from men to women.
Yes.
You had to learn that one.
Okay, so while you're getting that ready, we're going to start going through a little bit more as far as like what the thyroid does and how we know if we have thyroid issues, that whether they're diagnosed or undiagnosed, and whether we have an entire hormonal system issue within the body. So I mean, it's crazy when you think about it. So 75% of women experience moderate to severe stress. And when we talk about stress, a key component of this is the adrenals. And we're going to get into this a little bit more. But over 28 million Americans have a known thyroid disorder, and there is a huge amount of undiagnosed population that hasn't been given the right type of care to actually correct things. So it's estimated that as many as 30 million women are being treated for depression when actually they have hypothyroidism.
So just to let that sit for a second, 28 million Americans are known to have thyroid disorders, but then nearly 30 million women are being treated for something that's actually hypothyroidism. So we're talking about if we really doctors did their due diligence with diagnosing, that number would double overnight if we were actually diagnosing properly.
So think about, there's these women who are taking antidepressants and all these medications that majorly impact their everyday life, when in reality, nothing's being done to figure out the underlying cause of the depression in the first place. So this is a very, very big deal, and I'm so happy to see so many people on this workshop right now, because you have got to arm yourself with this information, because honestly, nobody cares more about your health than you and your family. Like, you have got to have the information and take charge of making decisions with what's best for you. So, when we look at the big diseases that I would say have become popular in diagnosing, the big diseases would be fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, and irritable bowel syndrome, IBS. These are the more popular diagnosis that's given to a woman if they're having various symptoms. But the problem with being given a diagnosis like this is it's called a garbage can diagnosis. Basically, this diagnosis is labeling a set of symptoms. It's not actually labeling what is actually causing it, and we've gotten to the point as a society that if we get a label put on something, we feel better about it. But think about that. If you go to your doctor with a list of symptoms and they say, oh, okay, well, this fits the criteria of chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia, we put a label on it, put you on medications to cover up symptoms, you feel better, and this gives us a false sense of security that everything's okay with our health, but all we did was cover up the symptoms with medication. And in no way are we actually any healthier as a result of it. We're just sitting there patching things up, and we say that everything's okay. But these are major warning signs. If somebody has the criteria for fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue syndrome or IBS, this means that there's major underlying damage that's happening in the body. And if we don't get to the cause, more severe problems are going to continue to come out. And that's crazy. So we talk about lazy doctoring, is you give your doctor a list of symptoms, and they just basically put a name on it. They did nothing to help you figure out what was going on.
It's like going to the mechanic with car issues and them just giving you some black electrical tape to put over the check engine light. I mean, it may address some of the things. It's going to address the symptom of the light, the warning sign going off, but we're not correcting what's going on. We're not actually addressing the issue.
So, I mean, this is a major thing, that chronic disease doesn't begin at the time of diagnosis. So when you are actually being given the diagnosis and it's hit crisis point, it's been building for years. And so this is a key part that I want you to remember, that when you're going in and trying to fix the cause of the problem, if it's been building for years, there isn't going to be this instantaneous quick fix. It doesn't exist. And so if it was as simple as handing you a medication or giving you some supplements to take, then everybody would be in a good place with their health. But we know that's not what's happening. So it's not as simple as just one little thing. But we are going to give you the tools and the things to look at to find out why it's happening in the first place and really address the cause as to why you're having the thyroid or hormonal issues altogether. And we're going to be giving the secret of the one major key factor that's going to be affecting it.
We called this the Thyroid Secret webinar, and we needed to find a really good secret that you guys hadn't heard. So
it's a good one.
She was stressed about it for a little while. Like, what are we going to name? What's the secret going to be that we?
It's a good one. So we're going to be coming up on this. But so for women, it's become where I think women have really been given a disservice in our healthcare profession when it comes to hormonal issues and disease overall. We're seeing where it has just gotten to the point where hormonal issues and underlying things are brushed off. So if a doctor can't put a label on it, and there's not a definitive test in most cases where it says, yep, this is what's happening, here you go. You look at fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, all of those, there's no test that actually confirms that you have those. It's just you generally meet criteria of symptoms. So it's crazy. So since the 1900s, women have been given a disservice in our healthcare profession. So hysteria was actually a medical term that was given as a diagnosis to women who were having health problems, but there was no actual medical diagnosis that could be given. They couldn't fit them into any specific category. So hysteria comes from the Greek word. The root is the uterus. And so this term got given to women, and it was basically, it had gotten to the point where it was told it's all in your head.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of where we are with healthcare now. I have so many patients who, they're like, I'm going to the doctor, and they're like, we tested, you're fine. Your thyroid levels look fine. But yet they're having all of the symptoms associated with it. So by the time it shows up on blood work, it's in crisis point. That's what we have to remember, is it's already gotten really bad. So we can't just rely on that test to give us the definitive diagnosis, and then women are sitting there saying that they're crazy, that it's all in their head for all of these things going on. So
yeah, think about that. How many of you that are watching have gone to the doctor? You've talked about what's going on. They look at some blood work. They look at a very small, specific set of numbers, and then they say, "Well, everything looks normal. It must be in your head. It must be something that is just you're feeling." I feel like that's the most like a hysterectomy is the most offensive, potentially name for a medical procedure ever, because it's saying, well, it's just in the woman's head. She's hysterical, so we're going to remove that component to end it.
yeah.
That's insane to me.
So taking out something doesn't ever build health within the body. So the compartmentalized approach to healthcare, it doesn't work. We're sitting there saying, oh, you have an isolated thyroid issue, you have an isolated adrenal issue, you have an isolated estrogen issue. The body doesn't work like that. And that's why we've gotten to the point that so many people are sick and suffering, and cancer rates are on the rise, and heart disease is on the rise, childhood cancers are on the rise. We've gotten to the point that we compartmentalize every component of the body, and that is just not how it works. And so we have to get out of that thinking. And so we're going to talk with you. You're going to leave this workshop and understand exactly how the thyroid works and how there's multi-systems associated with making sure that everything runs the way that it's supposed to. So really my big motivation to do this workshop is my mom was actually...
Hold on. I'm sorry. If you guys are watching, because on my phone we're frozen, if our screen's frozen, you can't hear us, can a family member or a friend of ours that has our number text me and let me know, because we may have to end the live stream and record this. So just text me. I don't want to go on and have you guys, like, I see there's like 36 people watching, but
yeah.
My screen's frozen, and that's may just be internet here, but I want to make sure you guys are getting this.
So if the audio cuts out or anything, just if you guys can shoot us a text and let us know. But the really big motivation for doing this, so my mom was actually given the diagnosis that she had thyroid issues, and the doctor just chalked it up to, they ran a general blood panel after one of her pregnancies, and they said, oh, your thyroid isn't working, we're going to put you on thyroid medication. And my mom's like, well, why isn't it working? Like, what's going on? And they said, well, it's probably just because you had so many kids. So I have 5 brothers and sisters, and it was literally told to my mom, oh, you've had a lot of kids, so what happens is sometimes the body starts attacking itself, and your thyroid is actually being attacked, so we're going to give you medication. And mind you guys, all she was tested for was TSH. So all they did was find out that TSH was high. They did none of the other testing to find out why her thyroid wasn't working, and basically put her on medications for years as a result of it. And it is crazy to me that nothing was done after all those years, that it was chalked up to you had a bunch of kids, so this is why your thyroid isn't working. So then my sister at 18 years old, was getting general blood work done, and she has a family history of thyroid issues, so they ran her thyroid, and they said, your TSH is off, so we're going to put you on thyroid medication. She is 18 years old.
They said it's because your mom must have had a lot of kids.
No, so they said, well, you have a family history of it, so you know what, you're just going to have to be on this medication. And that is crazy to me, that we're not saying, why the heck would an 18-year-old have her thyroid not working? And so she's 18, and then she's going to have to be on that medication for the rest of her life. That's insane. And then she started having, other issues with, like, estrogen and other things, and then it's, okay, we'll put you on another medication. We're going to put you on birth control. So now we have multiple medications going into an 18-year-old, trying to change all the hormones within the body, which they've actually found that birth control actually is, one of the studies, 1,000% increased risk of breast cancer. So we're trying to treat a hormone issue with hormones that actually increases the risk of cancer. I mean, this is insanity. I mean, this was huge. I'm like, I have got to do a workshop to help people and help women and people understand what the heck is going on here. So, with my sister, I'm like, we got to figure out what's causing this. We've got to figure out why the thyroid isn't working the way that it's supposed to, and get you off of the medication. And that's the reality of where we need to be, that it's not a family history of it. Yes, that may make you more genetically predisposed to it, but it doesn't mean that it has to happen. So this I mean, we talk about this all the time, epigenetics. This field has been out for years. They found that within 3 months of making lifestyle changes, you can alter, turn on or off hundreds of genes. So guess what? If I know in my family history, I have, genes that are promoting thyroid disease. So guess what? I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that I shut those genes off, that it doesn't happen.
Yeah, we've shared this both. I mean, pretty much every workshop we share, our motivation for things. We call our big why, it's to end anything that our family has handed down to us genetically. We wanted to end that with us, to not pass that down to any future generations. So that's been our motivation since before we have kids, while we still have Jude and Ezra, while we can influence them and help them to turn on genes that build health or turn off genes that are promoting disease, we wanted to stop this with us. So, you guys have that power right now. You can, if you're still having kids or if you have grandkids, you have the power to really influence your family tree by helping them, future generations, express a much healthier genetic expression for things.
I mean, that's a powerful thing when you think about you can alter the genetics that are passed down to your offspring. So we have got to start making these changes. And, I have a big family history of cancer. I have on, both sides of the family, a ton of cancer on both sides there. So I don't want to sit back and say I'm basically just waiting for the day that I get a cancer diagnosis. I sure as heck am going to make sure that I'm working as hard as I can to shut off those genes that are promoting cancer and turn on the genes that are actually promoting health within my body. And we have the ability to do that. So don't let doctors say, oh, it's genetic, there's nothing you can do, because that's completely been disproven. So, listen to this, and if you have the family history, then it's going to stop with you. And you're going to show that you have the ability to change it because, our body just has an amazing ability to heal. That's how God designed it. So when it comes down to it, the healing capability of our body surpasses anything that medicine can ever put a limitation on you for. So the diseases that are told are incurable. If you have autoimmune issues, there's nothing that you can do. You know what? Every day we see people come off medications. They go to their doctor for follow-up. The antibodies are down. They take them off the medications because that is what the body is created to do. So as simple as if you have a cut on your leg and it heals, if you have thyroid issues, it's going to heal. And I have patients who have had actually the thyroid radioactively destroyed. And so they're told you're going to have to be on medication forever. And we're going to get into a little bit of this, but it's crazy because the nerve fibers actually remain there. And there's actually a neuroendocrine reflex that they found that if we even stimulate that, I'm like pointing to his thyroid, his beautiful thyroid.
It makes me nervous. You just like karate chop my
So if we're able to still correct that neuroendocrine reflex there, then we're able to start getting the body to heal. And it's amazing because they were told that she would never have her thyroid producing better levels, and yet within months after her coming in and correcting that neuroendocrine system, she's like, I can't even believe it. The doctor said, we're going to lower your medication because your body is somehow producing hormones. Like, that is pretty cool. So the body is capable of way more than what medicine ever says that we can do. So we're going to help you guys walk out of here and be able to know what you can do.
Walk out of where?
I don't know, walk out of their houses.
She got fired up for a second.
I got fired up and I just started going crazy here. So, but that's our motivation. So I'm really excited to get into it. So let's get to how the thyroid works.
Okay, I'm gonna preface this section. When you see this, it's our inside joke. That means Nerd Alert is gonna get really sciencey, kind of heavy. I made her cut this section down because she was losing me a little bit. So if you see it's just a warning. Bear with it. We get through, but it's important to know. This is really important.
Okay, so right now, whatever you guys have going on, I need you guys to focus for the next couple minutes.
You got to know why this is important.
Because this is setting us up for when we're going to give you the 5 steps that we need to do, finding the cause and correcting the thyroid dysfunction. You've got to understand this part, okay? So we're going to talk about how the thyroid works. So really, the purpose of the thyroid is the thyroid responds to messages from the hypothalamus and the pituitary, okay? So Zach, I may point to things on him, okay? The hypothalamus and pituitary up in the brain. So what happens is that the hypothalamus, it constantly has interactions of cells in the body that are sending signals up to it, and then the hypothalamus determines what needs to happen as far as hormone balance, neurotransmitters, nutrients, and then it will dictate what the endocrine organs need to be releasing, okay? So pretty cool. Stuff's happening in the body, signals go up to the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus says, okay, let's figure out what the organs need to do to find balance within the body. So the hypothalamus actually sends signals to the pituitary. then the pituitary actually sends, and this is, I'm going to say the term of this one because it's important, thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH, okay? Pituitary sends TSH to stimulate the thyroid to produce more hormones, okay? So that TSH is getting released from the pituitary to tell the thyroid to release hormones. The thyroid then goes and releases two different hormones that are really important. So we're going to be having, so I hope you guys are following with this. Okay, so everyone's got TSH. Then we're going to be making sure that we're producing two different hormones that are produced by the thyroid, and these are going to activate T3 and T4. Okay, so I'm not going to say the other names of the other ones.
So when we start talking about exercise later, I'm not going to be calling it max T3 because it'll be confusing for this workshop. Completely unrelated.
Okay.
Go.
So I'm wrapping this up, okay, if you guys are bearing with me for this. Okay, so then the thyroid, because of TSH, it starts to produce T3 and T4. Okay, so you guys have probably heard those numbers. Sometimes doctors check for those. If they're a good doctor, they should check for those. And so we need to measure, T3 is actually the active form of thyroid hormone, okay? T4 is the inactive form, but it has a purpose, okay? So we actually have 94% of the hormones that are getting produced by the actual thyroid, 93% of it is actually T4, okay? So the inactive form. So T4 actually goes and circulates in the body where 60% of it is converted to T3, okay? So you guys hear that. T4 is produced by the thyroid, circulates, goes to the liver, and that's where 60% of it is then converted to T3, which is the active form of it. So now we're leaving the thyroid, and you guys see where another organ is actually picked up. That's important in this process, okay? So the liver is going to be producing that. Then there's actually more of the T4 actually goes where about 20% of the T4 is actually then converted into T3 through healthy gut bacteria, okay? So I'm not going to get into any more of it than that.
And, you know, we made a joke that it's kind of sciencey and a little bit nerdy, but just think about that for a second. It's not just, we're not just talking about your thyroid producing these hormones and your body doing with them what it needs to. There's multiple systems at play here. So when we talk about thyroid function, we're not just talking about one specific organ. We're talking about the entire functioning of your whole body, how it coordinates together with one another.
So think about how crazy this is when we look at our healthcare system, is we look at where the symptoms are. That's the only place that we look, when in reality the cause of that can be in multiple different areas. So if you have a thyroid issue, if your TSH is high or low, realize that we have to be looking at, is the liver healthy? Is the gut healthy? Is the brain and body connection healthy? Is the neuroendocrine system communicating the way that it's supposed to? You guys see that this isn't just one area that we can look at, and this is really lazy doctoring when they just throw you on Synthroid or levothyroxine. If they just throw you on a thyroid medication that's doing nothing to fix or even find out the cause as to why the body isn't working correctly. So you can see there's multiple organs that the dysfunction can be building. So I'm going to give you just kind of one example of this. When we look at if somebody has really high levels of TSH, think about this. So if the body is saying, I don't have enough free T3, which is the active form of thyroid hormone, because it needs that to do a lot of different functions. So a signal's going to the brain, the hypothalamus, to say, I don't have enough free T3. So the hypothalamus says, okay, well, let me stimulate the thyroid to make more. So TSH is getting released to the thyroid to make more. So the thyroid can be putting out tons of T4, 93% of it is getting produced T3 and T4, but there's not the activation happening in the liver, in the gut. So what's happening is there's just this constant bombardment of TSH because the conversion isn't happening. So what they do is with Synthroid, they just put in the T3. They put in the active form of it. So then the body says, okay, well, I have the active form. So then the brain actually stops signaling with as much TSH. So then your TSH levels go down. Cool. So we say this is medical success here.
It worked.
It worked. So we got rid of the symptoms because we threw in the free T3, or we threw in the T3 into the body, the active form, and the TSH is measuring in normal range. But I want you guys to really think about this. We never fixed what was causing the dysfunction in the conversion of T4 to T3. We never fixed that. So that issue is still happening in the body. So as a result of your symptoms going down and the blood levels looking in normal range of your TSH, Do you guys see you're not any healthier? You're actually not any healthier. We didn't ever fix anything. We didn't get you any healthier. We just got rid of symptoms and we made your blood work look good. We made your lab work look good. So if you're on those medications, we've got to get down to figuring out why the heck is it happening and correct the cause so we can eventually make sure that your doctor can take you off of those medications when we start to correct it. But there's multi-systems that we have to be addressing within this. So leading into the next thing that I want to talk about, if you go right on the website, the manufacturers of Synthroid.
Synthroid.com?
I don't know if it's
It is.
Synthroid.com.
No,
Okay,
it
yeah.
It wasn't a It is.
Synthroid.com. Go there. It says, do not use Synthroid if you have uncorrected adrenal problems. I'm going to tell you that every single person with thyroid issues has adrenal issues. So you should go to your doctor with that and talk to him because that is insane. Now we're going to talk about where the adrenals come into this. So there's actually a field, it's crazy, it's called psychoneuroimmunology, okay? Psychoneuroimmunology. This is super cool. This is actually the study of the connection between the immune system, the nervous system, and the endocrine or hormonal system, okay? This is amazing because this entire field, it demonstrates that there's a major connection between stress, our emotions, immunity, our mood, brain function, and hormones, that all of these things are connected. So your thoughts can actually affect your hormones.
Just to put this into perspective, our medical research in this country, I would say, is hands down the greatest in the world. We are coming up with information. We're leading to these studies that are finding just the most amazing information, and then why your doctor won't address adrenal issues, or if you say psychoneuroimmunology to them, or if they're recommending still taking an aspirin a day to prevent heart attack, or whatever random thing your medical doctor has still been telling you, just know that the entire field of medicine, the practice of medicine in general, is about 17 years behind the actual research of it. So there was a study in 2011 that looked at this, and they found that the average office, the average clinical setting where you're actually getting care from your doctor is about 17 years behind the research that's coming out. So if your doctor's still recommending things that you've heard on webinars, you've heard on television, you looked online and they say, you've heard from us, we're talking about your doctor shouldn't be recommending taking an aspirin a day to prevent heart attack, just know that that doctor is not staying up to date with the most cutting edge information.
So yeah, years ago, there was a study that came out that they said, your doctor should not be recommending taking an aspirin a day to prevent heart attack. Like, should not be done, was causing more issues. So this study came out.
It's a very, very small, like, slice of the population that would actually benefit. And
so they said if you have not already had a heart attack, you should not take an aspirin a day to prevent it. Okay, so this came out and they said doctors need to stop recommending this. You know what, I have people every single week coming in and they say, oh, my doctor just put me on an aspirin a day. I'm like, you've never had a heart attack, right? Nope. Your doctor should have looked at the medical research that said it should not be. They should not be doing that anymore. So, this shows you that you've got to make sure that you're going to doctors who are staying up to date with the cutting edge research, because if you're still getting recommended that, they're completely behind.
Yeah, and it's why an oncologist will say it doesn't matter what you eat when you're going through chemo, just eat whatever you can so you don't lose weight. I mean, it's why you would get that advice from a cancer specialist. So just know they're not doing anything potentially knowing, they're definitely not doing anything knowingly that's harmful, but they're not doing their due diligence when it comes to giving you the best medical advice by staying up to date with information.
Something that you remember at this point?
I forgot on the other video.
So this is going to be the hypothalamic pituitary axis, okay? This is very, very important because this is a primitive survival mechanism, that this axis is important for controlling and managing chronic stress, and this allows our body to adapt to it. So if you remember from earlier when we talked about how the thyroid actually gets stimulated, the hypothalamus is a major player in that. So that's the thing that actually is the connection from the body to the actual release of the hormones, that whole cascade. Okay, so now we have the hypothalamus again. This is going to be the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Now, this is important because this controls the stress response, and it is meant to last for minutes or hours, but that's it. So it's not supposed to be long term, it's supposed to be the short thing. And the problem is this axis is getting initiated and activated way too much. So the axis actually goes from your brain, it extends to the body through the central nervous system, and this is going to be sending out signals to nervous system, immune system, digestive system, circulatory system. So you guys see all the other systems that I'm adding into this now. Okay, so we talked about the thyroid, the liver, and the actual digestive system. Now we're bringing in the nervous system, immune system, digestive system, circulatory system. All of those are now players within this. So communication occurs through messages happening back and forth throughout this. So the HPA is activated, and this is going to help us to adapt to a chronic stressor that's happening. And this is meant for survival if you are in the wild and an animal is chasing you. Okay, so this is meant for survival. This diverts energy from less immediate actions and is going to be putting all your energy into things that are needed for crisis. So it's going to divert energy from two systems. Digestion isn't necessary if you're running from a lion, and reproductive health. So
every guy that's watching, their ears just perked up. Wait, what? It's going to perk what now?
Reproductive health, so libido, all of those things are not going to be having any energy going into them if we're in a chronic stress place, okay? But again, this is only meant to be for short periods of time. But the problem is with modern society right now, we perceive things that happen in daily life, they become chronic stressors. The body doesn't know any difference between a real or perceived stressor, okay? A perceived stressor is something that puts us into fight or flight mode, survival mode, but it actually wouldn't put us in danger. So perceived stressors are things that would be like a deadline that needs to be hit for work. This is going to be things that you are like constantly running your kids from place to place, trying to be on time with it. This is going to be from bills that need to be paid, emails that need to be answered. Like these are things that are
notifications or likes on your posts on Facebook, like
so
all those things that give us an extra level of stress, have a huge effect. Stress and nervous system fatigue are huge factors when it comes to thyroid dysfunction.
These things are triggering the HPA axis. Okay, so these things are chronic stressors, and these are happening so frequent in our daily lives that the HPA axis becomes where it is stimulated the majority of the time. So this puts us into this chronic adaptive place, and this starts to trigger abnormal release of all of the hormones. So if we're living in this place where this system is chronically being activated, what happens is that there's going to be major dysfunction that's occurring. So if we're sitting there staying in a high fight or flight state, this is going to lead to we're going to have high blood pressure, we're going to have high cholesterol, we're going to have abnormally high cortisol levels at the wrong time of day. It's going to be stimulated. So if you're somebody who at night you're
tired all day, and then as soon as you lay down, you can't sleep.
Yeah, it's called tired and wired. Like you're exhausted, but you lay down and you cannot fall asleep. And then you wake in the morning, you're exhausted, you can't get out of bed. This means that your cortisol levels are all over the place. So this is a really big deal when we get put in this chronic stress place. And so, I want you to see that the adrenal glands have a huge component of working with the thyroid. There's another axis, and it's actually the ovarian adrenal thyroid axis. So Zach doesn't have ovaries, but I'm just using his body again. So we have another axis that is put into place. So if a woman has issues with her cycle being off, heavy menstruation, painful cycles, if you're having fibroids, cysts, endometriosis, all of those are signs of an estrogen imbalance, and that means that you are also going to have adrenal issues and thyroid issues. Whether they've been diagnosed or not, you have those issues. And for men, if they're having low testosterone, you also are going to have adrenal issues or thyroid issues, because that axis all works together. So, I say this because it's not a one thing approach that we can do. We can't just say, especially for a woman who has issues with abnormal estrogen or estrogen dominance, we can't say, oh, well, we'll just put you on a medication to balance those levels, but in reality, everything else is getting broken down and isn't being addressed. I hope that makes sense. We're kind of going into a little bit of the details with this for you to see that we have to work on everything together. So we're going to get into the things that we can do to start correcting this. So if we have warning signs of damage,
That's such a hard transition.
so I don't want to leave you guys, there's a lot that we can get into with this, but I really wanted to set us up for walking out of this and having a plan together as to what we can take control of and what we're going to start to address to start fixing things.
Your first action step, if you're with us in Jacksonville, I think I saw Blakely jumped back on this feed. Blakely, if you can post the link for the gut check workshop so people can sign up for that. It's a free advanced workshop that we're doing December 2nd. We're going to be getting really into the details of nutrition, exercise. We're going to be giving plans for all of that, plus minimizing toxins, how you can actually help to detox. We're going to get into the specific details there, but we're going to go through some really important tips, things that anybody can do right now. But your number one action step is if you're here, you're able to get to Jacksonville for the December 2nd. It's a Saturday, first Saturday of the month. For that workshop at 11, get there. That is the most important thing you can do.
So there's going to be 5 things that we need to address. These 5 things is going to address the cause as to why you have thyroid issues or overall hormonal issues in the body. Okay, so these 5 things are correcting the cause, not just covering up symptoms. We're going to go a little bit more detail, but number 1 is going to be address the chronic emotional and mental stressors, okay? Because that's going to be that HPA axis that we need to address. Number 2 is going to be, we need to correct the neuroendocrine reflex, okay? Neuroendocrine reflex is the communication from the body to the brain and the brain to the body. We've got to correct the neuroendocrine reflex.
You didn't tell me the secret.
They should know what the secret is by now.
Someone comment the secret, the thyroid secret.
One organ is the secret, the key to the thyroid.
And it's not your thyroid.
And here's the hint. In both of the axis that I talked about, the HPA and the original signaling, there was one organ that I told you connected all of those. So let's see who knows the secret there.
We'll do a discount for the first one to comment.
So the second one is correcting the neuroendocrine reflex. The third thing is correcting the gut. We've got to correct the gut because we talked about where conversion of inactive to active form of hormones actually happens within the gut. And then we actually are correcting the autoimmune component. So if you've been diagnosed with the autoimmune thyroid condition, we got to address the gut. Number 4 is going to be correcting blood sugar imbalances. Insulin is actually a hormone, and so if insulin is off, you're going to throw off the entire hormonal cascade within the body. So correcting, balancing blood sugar, and then number 5 is going to be detoxing. Detoxing is for the body and the mind. We need to make sure that we're detoxing things that are chronic stressors or endocrine disruptors. So there's certain things in our environment that are going to be triggering those things to happen. Okay, so these are the 5 areas. We're going to go a little bit into each of those as to stuff that you can do right now or why these areas are important. But you have to, all of these areas, you can't pick one of them, okay? You can't just pick one area to address and say, oh, I worked on this one area, I don't understand why my hormones aren't balanced. And one thing I want to encourage you guys with is patience. If it took years for these problems to develop, it's not going to get fixed overnight. But when you start making changes, you're going to positively move you in the right place. And I would say on average, it's about 90 days that hormones take to reset. Okay? So you got to be patient. Even it took a lot more years to cause the damage. Fortunately, the body does heal faster. But typically with any type of hormone reset, it's about a 90-day balancing period that your body needs to get into it, okay? So don't expect all of a sudden you're gonna do stuff for 2 days and, quit or give up. I wanna encourage you to see the big picture and see the ending where you're really gonna be getting to with this. So
I feel like you just scared people that the challenge is gonna be a 90-day challenge. It's not.
Challenge is gonna be a shorter. It's gonna be kickstarting you, moving in the right direction, and then we'll give you follow-up with it. So addressing the chronic emotional and mental stressors, emotional trauma really keeps us in a really stressed out state, and a lot of times it's past emotional trauma. So this can be stuff that you are holding on to from your childhood or things that have happened in the past. So there's been studies that someone who's had an emotionally traumatic experience, when they were younger, this can actually cause them to have health issues later on in life because it puts them in a chronic stressed out state that we're constantly activating that primitive survival mechanism that it's throwing off the healing of every part of the body. So you've really got to make sure that you are working through underlying emotional stressors that are happening within the body and that you're able to have a good support system in your life.
We got to hit on that one a little bit more. Just just to think of the power that you give somebody if they've hurt you emotionally, physically, whatever the case may be, the power to not only affect you there in the moment, but for years after, and then also impact your health, potentially decades down the road. So, I mean, if this is something that you feel like you're struggling with, you don't obviously comment in here, but let us know in the office. We have access to tons of different counselors that we can help get you in contact with to work through these issues, because it's huge. It's a huge, huge part of your overall health, and we definitely want to make sure that we address this as one of the main components for you guys.
So, we talk about the number one essential in our office is mindset, and, included in that mindset is not just an understanding of what health really is, but the mindset of being able to take control of your life and take control of your life is going to be what you make of it, and realize that you have a lot more control over it than what we're told. So if stuff has been affecting you from the past, don't give it power anymore, and today's a new day, and you start moving forward. And we've really got to be able to let go and talk through some of those emotional stressors that have been there. So we discuss a lot of times where we need to implement gratitude. That's an easy step that you can do. If you are holding on to a lot of emotional baggage from the past, wake up each morning and write out 3 things you're grateful for, and just start bringing yourself into a good place with it. So, each of these areas, we could really do a whole workshop on all of them. So we're going to kind of keep this brief, but that's why we consistently do the workshops. So you guys can get more and more information on all of these components and really be able to piece it together. So number 2 is going to be addressing the neuroendocrine reflex. So this is pretty crazy. They've actually neurologists did these studies, and they found that people that have had injuries to the brain and spinal cord, they actually had increased susceptibility to bacterial infections. And so they did this study to figure out why the heck are people that are having injuries to the brain or spinal cord, why are they having more bacterial infections that are happening? So they did this study, and they found that there's nerve pathways originating in the spinal cord that have a direct influence on the immune system. And disruption of the immune system is going to cause dysregulation of the entire body. So you guys hear that? Disruption of the immune system, which is regulated by the nervous system, is going to have an impact disrupting the entire bodily functions. So it was pretty crazy that they found that the nervous system uses the adrenal hormones as part of an indirect path of communication to the endocrine system, to the actual entire hormonal system. So so I'm getting a little bit of nerd alert right now, but it's pretty cool, okay? So the immune system and adrenal glands are connected together, and the nervous system uses those 2 things to directly impact every function within the body. This is pretty amazing when you think about it.
But very heavy.
So when we look at disruption of this, I mean, they actually found that disruption of the normal function of the adrenal glands is under direct control of nerve tissue. So if the nerves are being damaged going to the adrenal glands, your adrenal glands aren't able to coordinate things the way that it's supposed to. So that's why when we look at with patients when they come in the office, we look at the spine, and we actually correct if there's damage within the spine impacting the nerve communication. We're disrupting the entire system, and I can give you amazing nutrition and amazing exercise program and detoxing, but in the end, if your nervous system isn't communicating that neuroendocrine reflex, everything's going to be off from there. So we've got to make sure that we increase those signaling and make sure that nothing's interfering with it, because interference to nerves by going to an organ is going to shut down the entire healing process, and in the end, nothing that we can do from the outside is going to fix it. So that's why we correct the spine. I don't care about bones, I care about nerves. So we correct the position of the spine to make sure nothing is interfering with that. So
wait.
Yeah.
I saw we froze. You don't have to text me. I got like 4 texts. If it freezes and we lose you, it's going to be on our media page. We're just going to finish through. So just say, if we lose you guys during this live stream, it's going to be, you'll have access to it. Don't worry.
Yeah, we'll post everything in its entirety. If there are any areas that cut out, we'll repost everything. But we've got to make sure that, so the neuroendocrine system regulates things from intestinal movement, release of digestive enzymes, respiratory functions, blood pressure, pituitary, parathyroid, all of these things are impacted. So, I just want you guys to see the importance of making sure that we're supporting that nervous system. And we do that through specific structural correction. So for our patients, why we talk about the importance of if we're correcting hormones, why you're consistently getting in for your adjustments, why you're consistently doing your home exercises to stop the interference from building in between adjustments. If you've never had your nervous system evaluated, get your butt in the office, make sure that you get an evaluation, because no doctor can fix a hormone imbalance from the outside. Your body's got to heal it from within, and it starts by correcting that area. So when we look at correcting the gut, this is a really, really important thing.
I'm so excited for this gut check workshop. We're gonna this is going to be a long workshop talking about. We've done gut workshops before. We talked like the fermentation workshop. We've had gut specific workshops, several in the past. It's that important of a workshop, but this one we're going to be going through things that we've never talked about, and I'm really excited for it.
So this one, really crazy. So autoimmune issues. So we look at the autoimmune thyroid issues. If we look at asthma, allergies, all of these things that we kind of brush off and we say once there's an autoimmune issue, there's nothing you can do. There is, and 70% of the immune system is actually within the gut lining. So that's crazy when you think about it. When all these things are tied in together, 70% of the immune system is in the gut lining. We have got to correct if there is issues or damage within the gut. We don't have the proper functioning of the immune system, then our adrenal glands aren't working, then our thyroid isn't working. I'm going to keep tying it back to all of those things. So when we look at, we have to make sure that we support the immune system. And if you've taken NSAIDs, if you've taken antibiotics, they found things like birth control. There's all of these medications that can actually damage the gut lining. And what happens is if that becomes damaged, we start to have inflammation in the gut, and there's abnormal proteins that start to circulate in the body. And my hand things are going really good right now.
So good.
So it starts to circulate in the body and then causes all of these autoimmune reactions. So if we want to stop an autoimmune reaction, we have to heal the gut and close those gap junctions. One of the things that we need to look at, if any of you guys that have had a thyroid issue going on for years, your doctor should be testing you for underlying viral infections. So here's a really important thing, action step that you guys need to note and make sure that you talk with your doctor about. Viral testing for Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus, Lyme disease, and H. pylori. These are viral and bacterial infections that for a lot of people are underlying and a chronic stressor to the immune system. And if they're not treated and if your body isn't supported, your immune system is going to chronically be weakened. So these are the common things that we see that are underlying weakening the immune system overall. But we're going to be talking at the gut repair workshop how we fix it. So if you've got gut issues and autoimmune issues, we're going to give you literally a laid out plan of the meal plan to follow, the supplements to take, the detoxing that we need to do to actually correct the gut. And we're going to really tie in at that workshop how our mood is impacted by our gut.
By your food, you had it.
What's that?
Mood is affected by your food. She had it.
Mood is affected by your food. Zach's always coming up with the
No, that's
one-liners.
not me. That's Max Living. That was
Yes.
That's all them.
So the other thing that we're going to be addressing, number 4, is going to be the blood sugar imbalances. So insulin issue is a hormone issue. If you have diabetes, if you're pre-diabetic, if you have blood sugar issues, and honestly, a lot of people are told that their blood sugar is fine. Whether they're fasting blood glucose or HbA1c is fine, but they're having issues with insulin. So they have insulin sensitivity. There's a specific test that actually can be done for that. So some people have underlying blood sugar imbalances, but their blood work says, no, everything looks fine, but it actually is an insulin sensitivity problem. So that's a really important thing that we have to be balancing out. When we consume high amounts of sugar, we're forcing our cells to turn from actually using oxygen, respirating oxygen for energy. We actually convert the cells into fermenting sugar for energy. And the fermentation of sugar is not a good place for your cells to be. So we actually cause this entire inflammatory process within the body and actually promote abnormal cell development from there. So Zach has some amazing action steps that we can go over as to why exercise is going to be really important for this.
So that was another hard transition. So 3 things that we're going to really focus on to inspire you to start taking action in the area of helping your body use the excess sugar for energy. And it's through HIIT training, high intensity interval training. We're talking about a very specific type of exercise. We do this in our office, but one thing that I need to stress the importance of, and the more I read in this, the more I talk about this in our group workouts, is that we have to make sure that our intensity is where it needs to be. If we're not getting our heart rate from 80 to 90% of your maximum heart rate, then we're not getting the most out of it. We're still getting an impact. We're still having some benefits of exercise, but we're not going to be getting the benefits that we're talking about with improving thyroid function, balancing blood sugar, correcting hormone issues, increasing growth hormone. We're not going to see that if our heart rate, our effort isn't matching what it needs to be.
So just to tie in right here, your workout should not be you're trying to burn calories during your workout just to try to lose weight. We're talking about a specific type of exercise that actually balances hormones. So if you've had insulin issues and cortisol issues and hormonal issues, this type of exercise is necessary in order to get your body moving in the right direction with it. So I want you to get out of your head, I'm not exercising to just burn calories and lose weight. That's going to be a byproduct of it.
So there was a study done by a doctor at McMaster University. His name's Martin Gabala, and he found that participants who worked in this high-intensity interval training or HIIT training, they worked out for a 10-minute period, 10 minutes, versus a 150-minute steady-state cardio. They had a 19% improvement of nearly every health marker or health indicator, any test they could run, an average of 19% improvement. So you're looking at 5 times less exercise and 19% improvement overall. So when it comes down to it with your exercise, it's quality absolutely over quantity, but we have to make sure that we're getting our heart rate where it needs to be. So one thing to build on that, your maximum heart rate is going to be 220 minus your age, and that's a rough estimate, but you need to be 80 to 90% of that during your work phases, and we're talking about 20 to 30 seconds at a time. 20 to 30 seconds where your heart rate is 90% of 220 minus your age. And then to make sure that you're okay mentally to get into this, it was a really cool way of addressing the high intensity interval training. It says, ask yourself, could you sprint to catch the bus if you had to? And if you would answer yes to that question, then you are absolutely ready to get into this type of training. From a mental standpoint and from a physical standpoint, if you feel like physically you could sprint after a bus, or if your child was walking into a busy street, if you could safely sprint after them to keep them from doing that, or sprint after the bus to catch it, then you should be training with this type of exercise as your primary form of exercise indefinitely. So then going off of that, if you feel like, no, I don't think I safely could, then we have to get you in shape to get in shape. And that's where something like solid state, or we decrease the percentage where you're not getting up to that 80, 90%, you may be at 70% or 60% of that maximum. But we're working you to that point where you're eventually at every training bout or every burst of exercise, you're getting to that maximum. And that's something that we're going to start pushing a lot for with Max T3 in our office. So if you've been coming to workouts, just know that I'm going to start pushing on the intensity.
To know what your heart rate
to
is.
make sure that you're pushing yourself as hard as you can to get the most out of it. Because if we're going to work out for only 10 minutes, we have to really, really work.
So this is where the exercise component is really important. Why we do this with patients in the office, why we have those times for Max T3, that's included with our patient care, is you need to have a doctor guiding you on what type of exercise is actually going to be beneficial for your body to be improving your health, not just to get you to look a certain way. So a lot of times we have patients who are coming in and want to improve their health, and they're going to trainers who aren't actually giving them objective things that are going to build health. They're just trying to have them hit their goal of losing a certain amount of weight or looking a certain way. When we have to we're going to start you at where you're at, and then be able to work you through the where your body needs to be in order to get the best results with it. So, for our patients, if you haven't been to Max T3, you've got to get to that and talk with Zach and work with Zach, and he can help you with kind of where you are now and getting a plan together for where we're moving.
And there's ways that you can monitor your heart rate throughout the workout by checking your pulse, but I use something very specific, a heart rate monitor that I keep tracking on my phone. So if the colors light up, so I know that if I'm in that zone, I want to maintain. If I'm trying to get out of it in recovery, that I'm giving enough time to get out of that zone. So I'm getting those peaks and those dips with my heart rate. The second thing, and I'll post the link. I will post the link tonight of the heart rate monitor that we use. The other thing is that willpower is going to be highest in the morning. They found that there was a study done in 2007, and it looked at somebody's willpower to make health-building decisions, or decisions that they may not make later in the day, and they found that they're more likely to make this decision earlier in the morning. That's why we have the opportunity for 4 Max T3 workouts or high-intensity interval training workouts throughout the week at 7 a.m. or 9 a.m. on Saturday. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you can come work out with us at 7 a.m. I'm going to put this out here. We're going to start trying to get more online training as well, so we can start sharing our live workouts, because we work out early on, because if we wait till the end of the day, we just put it off and then we don't do it. So just be on the lookout for our live workouts to be shared on Facebook. But just know that you're more likely to do something earlier in the day rather than putting it off to the end of the day.
I want to say that if you want to correct these hormone issues, you have to work out. This isn't
It's not enough.
Hey, maybe it'd be cool if you tried to start working out. You have to. So if you're listening and your goal is to come off medication or never have to go on medication and actually fix the underlying cause and be able to wake up and have energy, be able to live an amazing quality of life, if you want to fix these problems, you have to stop making excuses, and you have to get a plan together of how you're doing this. So we will make this fit into your lifestyle. We're asking for 10 minutes, but you've got to commit to doing it. This can't be I can't fit my workouts in. You have to make this a priority. This is an essential part of being able to correct things. All of these areas, these 5 areas, have to be addressed.
There's nothing wrong with kind of bribing yourself to doing it. Ultimately, ideally, the better health outcomes and health markers, feeling better, having more energy, being able to spend more quality time with family and friends, we would both love for that to be reward enough, but I get that sometimes isn't. So we talked about this at our last workshop, having a system in place to help make this a habit more long term. So you set up a visual cue or some sort of cue to remind yourself early on that you need to exercise. You develop a routine, and then you have a reward in place. Give yourself a reward for staying on track, whether it's working out 3, 4, 5 times per week, or 10, 15, 20 times per month. Give yourself that reward, so eventually the reward becomes the routine, and you don't need to keep rewarding yourself. But there's nothing wrong with bribing yourself a little bit to make this a habit over a long period of time, and then eventually this becomes your lifestyle.
Yeah. So when we look at the importance of the workout component, this is going to be helping to speed up the hormonal repair faster. This is going to, when you're consistently doing this, it's going to get blood sugar back into balance. It's going to help the overall hormonal system reboot faster. But there's also the component I want to lead in the workouts, which is helping the number 5 area is the detoxing component. Mm-hmm. So our body detoxes through the lymphatic system, and the lymphatic system only works through movement. Okay, you guys hear that? The lymphatic system works through movement. So when you are doing these exercises and you're sweating, you're actually helping your body to detox. So you're knocking out multiple areas within this. So stop looking at exercise as I'm going to do something to look good. This is necessary to get your body healthy. So detoxing is a really important component, because toxicity causes a constant stressor, activates that HPA axis, is chronic stress, and it's also going to be causing endocrine disruption. So when we see estrogen dominance, which is the majority of the population now, even kids are now facing an estrogen dominance, what this is going to come down to is we have to stop putting the things into our body that is going to increase estrogen. So the problem is toxins in our environment are going to be mimicking estrogen. They're called xenoestrogens. These are everywhere. We're going to be doing, coming up the beginning of the year, we'll be getting all of our dates set out for our workshops for the rest of the year. But we're going to be doing a specific workshop on toxicity, because it needs an entire workshop. Because there are things from our water, our air, the carpets that we have in our house, the mattresses that we're sleeping on, the perfumes that we're putting on our body. I mean, the things that we're cooking food in.
Completely avoiding toxins entirely is impossible, but we need to know how to minimize our exposure and how to support our body to detox naturally and
so
effectively.
We have to, and Zach saying that, is we have to minimize exposure, but we have to realize there still is exposure regardless
Absolutely.
of how much we're going to try. So then we have to go through different detoxes that are going to help to support our body's detoxing ability, so we don't have these endocrine disruptors constantly bombarding our body, because we're putting all this work in to keep our body regulated well, but we have these endocrine disruptors that are coming in. And what's crazy is, so about half of the population, they're estimating now, has the MTHFR gene mutation. And the MTHFR gene mutation actually causes an issue with methylation within the body. So this is important because it causes some nutrient deficiencies and abnormal metabolism, but it also makes it harder for individuals to detox. So now we're seeing a more toxic environment, and now we have about 50% of the population that can't methylate. Methylation is the second part of detoxing, and this is where it actually, things in the body that need to come out are methylated in order to get them out. The certain part of the population can't do that. So there's factors that we need to put in when we're supporting our body with detoxes. Yes, our body is given amazing, God gave us amazing ability to detox on our own, but we also are now putting man-made chemicals in our body that God never intended for it to go in. So this is why we need to do an outside detox consistently to get these things out of our body. So we're gonna actually go over at the gut workshop, we're gonna be, in order to heal the gut, we also have to get rid of toxins. So we're gonna be doing a two-part, we're gonna be doing gut repair and a detox that we've never done before. So this is gonna be getting introduced. We're all gonna be doing it as a family, because this is something.
We have kid versions, so
yeah,
that's huge. We have a child version of a detox system as well, which is we have a fairly simple one at the office, but this is going to be specific to correcting toxicity issues.
And this is going to be helping with getting rid of those endocrine disruptors, getting rid of heavy metals, helping ourselves and our children to detox before it becomes a bigger issue. Because, like I mentioned, childhood cancers are on the rise, so we're seeing now toxicity is a big factor with it. So we've got to make sure that we're supporting the detoxing mechanisms and making sure that we can specifically get the body in a place that it doesn't have outside things interfering with it. So to recap the 5 things, we're going to be number 1, addressing the chronic emotional and mental stressors. Number 2, we're going to be supporting the neuroendocrine reflex. Number 3, we're going to be correcting the gut and supporting the immune system in the process. Number 4, we're balancing blood sugar, getting rid of the insulin issues and the inflammation that's going on there. We're going to be exercising, which is an important part of that. And then we're going to be detoxing the mind and the body to get rid of the things that are causing the stress response and causing the constant endocrine disruption. So, I mean, there was so much stuff that we wanted to really pack into this.
Can I answer a couple questions that we got? I saw PJ asked about an online resource. You can do maxc3.com. If you want something more specific to you, though, like Peggy said, let's schedule something in office. And for Tiffany, asking about best pots and pans, we use stainless steel, everything. Sometimes we have like some ceramic stuff, but for the most part, it's stainless steel. We just use a good oil with it.
If you're using Teflon, that's something that we tell you
throw
throw
that
in
right
the garbage.
That's going to be, I think, this year.
Not many things we say throw out right now, but Teflon, it's throw it in the garbage. If you have Teflon cookware, just get rid of it. It's a carcinogen, and it directly causes cancer, and you're cooking food in it, and then you're putting it in your bodies and your kids' bodies. So, but we're going to have all those specific workshops laid out. We're going to be implementing some more online workshops and you know, doing as much as we can to support. I know we had a few glitches in here, so thank you guys for being patient with the signal cutting out a little bit. But make sure your action steps are sign up for the Gut Check Workshop. I know Blakely's going to be posting a link to that on Eventbrite. You can go to boldcity.events. And sign up for the gut workshop. It's December 2nd. We're really excited about that.
I so badly want to highlight our website underneath you, but
it's in a bad spot.
Sit up. You do it.
There we go. So we're going to, yes, you can go to the website here. And I can't point to it here. So go to the website and go to boldcity.events to see the future events that we have coming up. If you have somebody who needs to get information, needs to get their body healthy and well, who they couldn't come on this, and you need badly for them to hear that they have to be doing more than just being on medication to cover up symptoms,
Call them out.
Call them out and try to get them to hear this, but also invite them to our community dinner. So we do community dinners as a way to just introduce us to more people. So we have one coming up in December. We're going to actually do a recipe night. It's going to be a dessert recipe night for the holidays. We're going to do it as a holiday party, and we're going to show you how you can eat healthy foods and healthy desserts and not have them cause an insulin reaction and damage your health. So we can actually support our hormonal system by eating healthy, really tasty desserts. So that's going to be coming up as well in December. But please get to the Gut Check Workshop, okay? That is your homework to get signed up for that. December 2nd. We're going to be doing our best to get that live as well.
Yeah, it'll be live.
That will be, so if you're not physically in Jacksonville, if you guys are listening to this and you live all over the country, you can also tune in to that. And then we're going to be giving a specific plan, so we don't wait until January 1st to get healthy. We're starting it now, okay? No excuses. You have to start taking action now, because January 1st is not a magically different day, okay? Start making changes now.
Okay, so 2 more things. The secret to thyroid, no one got it. I saw some close answers. You want to tell them? Tell them.
Hypothalamus.
Hypothalamus.
Okay? The hypothalamus is the secret to your thyroid health, because the hypothalamus is where the body, the cells, talk to the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus is actually what determines what organs need to be released. So the hypothalamus is a connection between the nervous system, the body, the nervous system, and the endocrine system. Okay, so that's why it's the key, because there's no hormone regulation that happens without the neuroendocrine system being connected, and the connection occurs at the hypothalamus. Okay, so if your doctor is just running a TSH and sticking you on thyroid medication, please find a different doctor. You've got to find somebody who is actually helping you to get rid of correct the cause as to why this is happening. And we're going to go through those measurements that you did earlier.
Yes. So your waist-hip ratio, the ideal range for women is 0.8 to 0.84. So if you divide your waist by hips, the measurement for waist divided by hips, it should be within that 0.8 to 0.84. And that's going to be a very, very larger, much more telling, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
So
it's going to be much more telling for your health than your actual weight overall.
Yeah, so your weight overall is different for every single person. So there isn't this magic number that you should be, but this number being in that range is very, very crucial, because if you are outside of that range, so for women, if you are above 0.85, that means that you are having issues with cortisol, insulin, that you are high risk for metabolic syndrome. So that is high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol. You are super high risk for heart attack, stroke, cancer, all of those things. So you've got to make sure that as we're making these changes, we're getting our body's hormonal system fixed. We're going to be making nutritional changes, supporting our body through exercise. You want to see if you're outside that range over 0.85, you want to be seeing that we're getting into that range. So that's for women. For men,
it's 0.89. You want to be below 0.89
for men.
I don't know what the bottom end of it is, but for men, you want to be...
Yeah, for men, you're a little bit different. So for a male, if you're over, I would say 0.9 is where you would be at risk. So you want to be under 0.9, but females, you want to be under 0.85.
So again, just to recap, you're going to be taking a measurement about an inch above your belly button as your waist, and your hips are going to be the largest part where the hip joint would be, the largest section, and divide those two numbers, waist divided by hip, and that will give you your number, 0.8 to 0.84 for women, and men being, say, 0.86 to 0.89 would be about the range for men.
So the thyroid secret is to fix your hypothalamus. So we love you guys. We're so glad that you guys could join this, and we're going to be getting this edited and then reposting it on our media page, so boldcity.media. Make sure you get signed up for events. Love you guys. Share this with your loved ones. Get them healthier. If you know someone that is close to you but far from health, please share this information.
Love you guys.
Love you guys.
Max out.